really appreciate it. One thing we never talk about on the show, one thing we hardly ever talk about on this show, I mean, I don't think we've ever talked about it, actually, is baseball. And I know baseball season's far away, but some interesting news popped up that you brought up to me before the show, and I told you to stop talking. You started talking. I was like, I don't want to hear anymore. I don't want to hear anymore because I read a little bit about this. I want to react to it on the show. The Baseball Hall of Fame just came out with their nominees for this year, and you could take over the rest, Lance. Tell us about it.
Okay, so they did have their nominees, and these are stellar names. So the Baseball Writers of America did have a vote on who they think are rightful inductees to Cooperstown, New York. But unfortunately, there are 0 inductees in this year. So that's the first since 2013 that they are not inducting anybody. The closest to getting inducted, so you need to get 75% of the votes to get into Cooperstown to be a Hall of Famer. The closest person or player in this list of candidates so far is Kirk Schilling with 71.1% of the votes. Granted that his percentage has gone up for the past 3 years. So it has constantly gone up. So he is constantly getting support for his Hall of Fame candidacy, but he is still 16 votes short this year. And second on the list is Barry Bonds, 61.8%, Roger Clemens, 61.6%, Scott Rowland, 52.9%, and a shortstop, Omar Vizquel, at 42.9%. So the top 3 vote getters, go ahead.
No, I'm irritated with the process. I'm not irritated at you. I'm irritated with the whole process. So I'm actually for the fact that the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame doesn't let somebody in every year. I think the NFL forces people in order to have a ceremony. They got to have 5 people. They got to have this. Sometimes there just aren't people that are worthy of being in the Hall of Fame. But you just talked about Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, and Kirk Schilling. All 3 of those guys deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, if you want to say that Bonds and Clemens don't belong there because of steroids, I could see your argument. You could say they cheated. That's the argument. But I don't get the Schilling argument. Why can't Kirk Schilling be in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame? Now, tell me what you told me earlier.
Okay, so I do agree with the argument that at least for Bonds and Clemens, they did something that altered the result of the game. Schilling, in general, did not do anything, did not alter a ball or anything to change his pitching. So he did not do anything to alter his game. All he did was speak up his mind, essentially. So he did have some controversial tweets about allowing transgenders to go into gender-based comfort rooms in North Carolina. So he did have a controversial tweet there. And he also had controversial remarks about the Capitol riots that just recently happened before Donald Trump left the Oval Office. So those 2 controversial statements, I believe, is what keeps him away from being a Hall of Famer. And this is where I guess the baseball writers are having a struggle separating the player from the person. So, I mean, Ty Cobb, for all we know, he was a racist. I've read this before. Ty Cobb, legendary baseball player in the 20s.
A lot of guys in the 20s were racist. I mean, a lot of them. And then not a few, a lot.
And they were in the Hall of Fame. So Schilling just spoke up his mind with what he sees, and this is his opinion, and he's getting persecuted for it. He's just 16 votes shy, but still, that's still 16 votes short. So this is where I should make an appeal to the baseball writers that at least for Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, you cannot separate the player from the person, because as a player, they really altered themselves to perform better. They performed up until their 40s. But for all we know, even Kirk Schilling had a disappointing start to his career. It was only during his 30s or 40s that he eventually became that Hall of Fame level type of pitcher. And he did well. He was very fantastic. and he's being persecuted, getting shut out of Hall of Fame consideration just because of controversial tweets. And that's something that I don't understand.
Yeah, you look at like even the NFL has been guilty of it. Terrell Owens had to wait 3 times to get into the Hall of Fame for the NFL. Terrell Owens is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Indeed.
Now he was also a first ballot douchebag. So he was a jerk when he played. Nobody enjoyed him as a personality. Seeing him talk now, it's almost like there's something almost like misunderstood about him. But at the time, nobody really cared for him. So I can understand why he wouldn't get into the Hall of Fame, from a personality standpoint. But from a player standpoint, that guy was first ballot. There's no reason he shouldn't have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. Period. End of story. And when you look at Kirk Schilling, maybe he's not a first ballot guy, but he's a Hall of Fame guy. He's a Hall of Fame guy because he had great careers. And for me, he was in some truly memorable moments for sports. Now, whether you agree with his philosophy on transgender rights, whether you believe with his philosophy politically, whether you like the fact that he was a supporter of Donald Trump or Melania Trump or the porn star whose last name is Trump, who cares? That's not what this is about. This is only about whether or not you were a good enough player to be a Hall of Fame caliber player. So if there's even a hint of a suspicion that he's not getting into the Hall of Fame because of his political leanings, I think the whole thing is invalid. The whole process needs to be scrapped. These writers who are not taking into account the player, and like you said, only taking into account the person, they all need to have their Hall of Fame credentials taken away from them. They're not the kind of people that we want to be choosing people in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so just to wrap up this Kirk Schilling argument. So here are his quick stats. So he had a career renaissance from the ages 30 to 40. So his 20 to 30, essentially he was a so-so pitcher. So he was average. It was during the last years of his career that he really became that Hall of Fame pitcher. So he struck out 2,316 batters over 2,272 innings. So that's almost 1 per inning, while winning amazing. 164 ball games. So he also had 3 300 strikeout seasons and 3 20-game winning seasons. So that's a strong argument. And also one bloody sock. So that one bloody sock alone is enough for him to be included in Cooperstown. So what's stopping the baseball writers?
Yes, 100%. Look, if you could put together 3 20-win seasons, would you say 4 300 strikeout seasons? 5?
3 also. 3 300 seasons.
Those are 3 amazing, absolutely amazing seasons. So, yes, I think he's a Hall of Fame player. That's my opinion. Lance, before we go on to the next segment, I do want to remind people of a couple things. First thing I want to do is say hello to my girlfriend who's watching today. She's out there watching the show. Hey, Giselle. And the second thing I want to do is I want to remind everybody that the show is being powered by our friends over at Sports Trading Systems. For those of you that want to learn how to trade sports like other people trade stocks, go over to sportstradingsystems.com. There's some free stuff that you can download. There's also a great shop over there where you can actually buy picks for the weekend. You can dive into the score metrics system of trading sports like stocks, which is basically using back-tested historical data. The truth is, the proof is in the pudding. These guys are up 90% for basketball season. It's only a quarter of the way in. So by their own calculations, if you were to play the entire basketball season using the score metrics process for actually investing in these games, you would be up almost 400% by the end of this year. You got to go over there right now and dive in. It's sportstradingsystems.com. Go today. Tell me so. Now.